Welcome back to Leaving Cert Plus. This is lesson 1.6, our second lesson looking at algebraic fractions. One of the key take-homes from our first lesson looking at algebraic fractions was that if we have addition or subtraction, we need a common denominator. Now, a common denominator might be hard to find in a question like this, but if you use the skills we learned in the previous lesson, and that is to factorize this quadratic here, that's going to make the question a lot easier. So if we do factorize that, we've got x squared minus 4x plus 3. Open up your brackets, you've got x and x to make the x squared, you've got a 3 and a 1 to make your 3, and you want to create a minus 4. So I'm going to say minus 3 and a minus 1 will create a minus 4. So these are the factors of that quadratic. So you can see that we've got an x minus 3 and an x minus 1. They're present as the factors as the quadratic in the center. So I'm going to use my common denominator as those two factors, x minus 1 and x minus 3, because this is a factor of it, and so is this. So it suits the two outside guys. And then when we factorize this as a whole, this is what we got. Okay, so basically it fits all of their means. So what we need to do then is do the same thing to the top of the fraction as we done to the bottom. So what do we do to the bottom here? We multiply that by x minus 3. So let's do the same to the top. So it's 2 by x minus 3. What did I do to the bottom here? I didn't really do anything. I just broke it up into factors. So I'm not going to touch the top here. It's still just minus by 3 x minus 1. And make sure that minus is acting on both of those terms. And then what did I do to the bottom here? I multiply that by x minus 1. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top. It's 4 by x minus 1. So multiplying out the brackets on top, we're going to get 2x minus 6 minus 3x plus 1. And then you're going to get plus 4x minus 4. On the bottom then, we can leave them for now. So tidying up on top, we got a 2 minus a 3 is minus 1. Plus 4 is going to be 3 altogether. So we got a 3x. And then we got 6 plus 1 is minus 5. Minus 4 is minus 9. And that's all over x minus 1 by x minus 3. You could take out a 3 on top. So just to simplify here, you could take out a 3 and you'll have x minus 3. And then you'll have your x minus 1 and an x minus 3 on the bottom. So you can see that we've got an x minus 3 on top and the bottom, so they can cancel. So that works out as a pretty fraction of 3 over x minus 1. It might not always work out as pretty as that, but it did in this case. So looking back on the steps we done, we factorized the quadratic and we noticed that they fit the outside factors. So therefore that decided for us our common denominator, and then the key thing was do the same thing to the top as you did to the bottom. So we multiplied this by x minus 3, so we done the same thing to the top. We multiplied this by x minus 1, so we done the same thing to the top. Okay, and after that, it's just simplifying. I'd like you to pause the video and try this one. So first of all, let's factorize this quadratic. That's going to be x squared minus x minus 6, broken up into brackets. X, and maybe we could use 3 and 2. So 3 and 2, you want to use a negative 3 to create that minus x and a positive 2. So these are our factors which match up with the other two denominators. Let's use this as our common factor or a common denominator. So what did you have to do to the bottom of this? Nothing really, you just broke it up into factors. So we're going to leave that as 1. Now you're going to have 1 multiplied by x minus 3 because we asked what did I have to do to this? I had to multiply that by x minus 3, so let's do the same thing to the top. Then we're going to multiply the minus 3 by the x plus 2. Again, because x plus 2 is not here, we have to multiply it by that. So multiplying out the top, we're going to get 1 plus x minus 3, minus 3x minus 6. And on the bottom, I'd usually leave these as their factors, just in case we can simplify further in the question. So tidying up, we get 1 minus 3 minus 6 is going to give us a minus 8. And then we got a minus 2 with these two. So that's minus 2x. On the bottom, we've got x plus 2 by x minus 3. If you take out a minus 2 on top, you're going to get minus 2 times x plus 4. But you can't simplify here any further. That's going to be your answer. So last question, and I'd like you to pause the video and give it a go. So first of all, again, let's factorize this here. Opening up your brackets, you could say that's x and maybe 3 and 2 again, both positive to create a plus 5x. So these are the two common factors again, and that's going to be our common denominator, x plus 2 multiplied by x plus 3. Now nothing has changed with this one because it has the same denominator as what we have here. So let's leave that as 1. Then you could say minus 2 times x plus 3, what it doesn't have on the bottom, and then plus 3 times x plus 2. So multiplying out these brackets on top, we're going to have 1 minus 2x minus 6 plus 3x plus 6. On the bottom, you can leave them as they are or multiply them out. Either is fine. So tidying up the top, we get 2x and 3x. That's going to give us 1x altogether. And then these 6's are going to cancel. One is positive, one is negative, and you get a plus 1. That's x plus 1, and you have x plus 2 by x plus 3 on the bottom. So that there is your simplified fraction. So that's just the type of question they can ask you, but it's handy to know that you should factorize this and use that as your common denominator. That's all for lesson 1.6. Thanks for watching Leaving Cert Plus. I hope that made sense. I'll see you again at lesson 1.7.
If you like this video, you'll love our notes. You can get some for free in the link in the description of this video.